Hello, mighty companions. This is Earl Purdy, and I want to welcome you to A Course in Miracles. And we're going to be talking about on Facebook Live, the Guiltless Son of God, which is the same as saying the innocent child of God. We're going to be on page 239 in the text, the Foundation for Inner Peace version. And we're talking about your innocence. We're going to get deep into what the power is of understanding your innocence. So here we go. We're going to start off with a little music from Brother John Christmas as telling us the truth about the situation that we're in right now. We're not a victim of the world I see. We're not a victim of the world I see. I'm not a victim of the world I see. I'm not a victim of the world I see. I'm not a victim of the world I see. I'm not a victim, no, of the world I see. I'm not a victim of my mom. I'm not a victim of my pop. I'm not a victim of events or circumstance at all. I'm not a victim of the world I see. I'm not a victim of the world I see. 'Cause what's happening now is what I've done to me. I'm not a victim of the future, not a victim of the past, not a victim of anything that really doesn't last. I'm not a victim of the world I see. I'm not a victim of the world I see. 'Cause what's happening now is what I've done to me. Oh my God, what I've done to me. I'm not a victim. I'm not a victim of the world I see. I'm not a victim. I'm not a victim of the world I see. I'm not a victim, no, of the world I see. Welcome, mighty companions, to Facebook Live, Hardcore Course in Miracles. This is Earl Purdy, and we're going to be talking about the innocent child of love, the guiltless son of God, talking about who you really are and the importance of getting in touch with your sinlessness, your guiltlessness, and your innocence in terms of having the kind of peace and harmony and health and healing that you'd like to have. I'm not a victim of the North. I'm not a victim of the South. Not a victim of anything except what comes out my mouth. I'm not a victim of the world I see. I'm not a victim of the world I see. 'Cause what's happening now is what I've done to me. Help me out now. I'm not a victim, not a victim of the world I see. I'm not a victim, not a victim of the world I see. I'm not a victim, no, of the world I see. Now remember, you don't have to believe the ideas. You don't have to accept the ideas. You don't have to even welcome the ideas. Some of the ideas you may actively resist. Some of the ideas. Some of the ideas will be, and you may find hard to believe. I'm not a victim of the world I see. I'm not a victim of the world I see. 'Cause what's happening now is what I've done to me. Oh yeah. That's what I'm talking about. I'm not a victim of the world I see. Because what's happening to me is what I have done to me. Welcome, mighty companions. I'm Earl Purdy. Welcome to A Course in Miracles. And it's my pleasure to have an opportunity for us to go deep. I see myself as the truth repetition teacher, the truth remembrance teacher. And my purpose is to bring the Course in Miracles to life in plain language, to allow you to hear what it's saying. Not necessarily believe it yet, but to allow yourself to just hear it. And the Course in Miracles says that the best way to approach the Course in Miracles is to understand that you need not believe the ideas, you need not accept the ideas, and that you need not even welcome the ideas. Some of the ideas, now get this clear, some of the ideas you may not just regularly resist, some of these ideas you may actively resist. 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 Did you hear me? Some of these ideas may seem to be quite startling. It's not unusual for people to hear ideas in the Course in Miracles and be startled by those ideas. Now, here's the most important thing of all. In my 40 years of working with the Course in Miracles and many students, they make the mistake with the Course in Miracles of not paying attention to how the Course in Miracles says you should study the Course in Miracles. And the Course in Miracles says that you are not being asked to judge and analyze the ideas at all. That he says to analyze is to break down and separate out. So actually, the Course says you actually understand it and get more confused and disoriented by the Course in Miracles by trying to analyze it. It says the ego, the part of us that's been trained by the world, analyzes, but the Holy Spirit, the love in you, it accepts. The ego analyzes and the Holy Spirit accepts. Love accepts. Guess what? If you want the ideas in the Course in Miracles to have meaning to you, all you have to do is use the ideas. If you use the ideas, the Course in Miracles says the ideas themselves will show you that the ideas are true. The ideas will show you that the ideas are true. If you use it, you will see that the ideas are true. And that's what it says at the beginning of the workbook. Remember only this. Welcome to Facebook Live. I'm Earl Purdy. I do them live also so that we can make comments and you can have comments and you can interact with each other. And we call ourselves the Mighty Companions. And we're going to be on page 239 in the text of A Course in Miracles, the Foundation for Inner Peace version. And I'm going to do it in plain language, sometimes using the substitution of the meanings for the words that the Course in Miracles uses. And don't forget that the Course in Miracles is trying to teach us the difference between love and fear, what's true and what's not, because it says if we knew the difference between what was true and what was not, we would choose for the truth. We choose for the love, and we do a clear distinction between the two. This section to me is a particularly powerful, personally meaningful section. It's called the Guiltless Son of God. And that's talking about you, the innocent child of God. God is love. So we're talking about the innocent child of love, the innocent creation of love. Listen to me. You are the innocent creation of love. I told you I'm a truth repetition teacher. You don't drive a nail in with one blow. So sometimes we have to hear things over and over before we will believe it. Think about it. Whatever you think about yourself, whatever you believe now, is probably because you heard it over and over and over and over and over again. That's why people believe what they hear in the world and what they're taught. It's because you've been told that over and over again. And suppose you had been told over and over again from the time that you were a child that something about you was not okay, that you were not worthy, or that you were inadequate, and lacking in something. If you heard that enough, you would believe that about yourself. And if you believe that about yourself, then you're going to see that in your experience. So today, we're going to start out by going through the paragraph that says, the ultimate purpose. What is the ultimate purpose of projection? Listen. What is the ultimate purpose of projecting? What is the ultimate purpose of projecting what's going on in your mind, and then you project it and you see it in somebody else? Why do we do that? Why do we take the thoughts that we have and then we project those thoughts onto others? The Course in Miracles says the ultimate purpose of projection is to get rid of guilt. So if I'm feeling a lot of guilt inside, I'm going to project it and say, you're the one that's guilty. If I feel a lot of fear and separation inside me, I'm going to look out and I'm going to see what I perceive as being a lot of fear outside of myself and everybody else. And when it says the ego, the Course in Miracles is talking about the part of your mind that thinks it's separate, the part of your mind that believes in guilt. Or if you grew up in a more fundamentalist religious environment, the part of your mind that believes in sin. So the Course in Miracles defines sin as a lack of love. That whenever you see that word, you can just substitute a lack of love, and you'll get a more accurate perception of how to look at that word. So the mind that's guilty, the guilty mind, the ego part of the mind, attempts to get rid of guilt. But the ego part of the mind, the part of the mind that feels guilty, it tries to get rid of ego, it tries to get rid of guilt, but from the viewpoint of guilt. So you have people trying to get rid of guilt from the viewpoint of believing that their guilt is real, or somebody else's guilt is real. And so the Course in Miracles says, for much as the guilty part of the mind wants to retain guilt, do you know that there's a part of us that has actually been taught that if you see yourself as guilty, that makes you a good person? That if you didn't feel guilty about things, you would be some kind of a sociopath. But the truth is, it's because of the guilt that we see so much pain and attack and fear in the world. So the Course in Miracles says that there's a part of me that wants to retain guilt. But you, and this is a really important distinction, it says, you find guilt intolerable. Check out what I'm saying. It's a part of the mind that believes it's guilty, and that part of the mind believes that guilt is good, not just a mistake that needs to be corrected. It's actually the state of your being. And the Course says, but you, the real you, that divine you that is love, it finds the guilt intolerable. So there's a part of me that wants to feel guilt and believes that guilt is good and serves some kind of useful purpose. And then there's another part of me that just quite frankly doesn't want to feel guilty and that doesn't want to see myself as guilty. And so the Course in Miracles says the guilt is intolerable. And why is the guilt intolerable? Because the Course in Miracles says guilt stands in the way of your remembering God. So when you are aware of your guilt, you don't remember love. You don't remember love. Don't forget, rhythm hooks the mind. It's hard to ignore rhythm in music. That's why I use it so much. It's especially cool on replays. So listen to me. Guilt stands in the way of your remembering God. Guilt stands in the way of your remembering love. Love's pull is so strong. The pull of God is so strong that you cannot resist it. You cannot resist the irresistible pull of God. The Course in Miracles defines will as pull. That's an interesting change. So when you say I want to accept the will of God, you're really saying I want to accept the pull of God. God is pulling me, taking me, bringing me. And so the Course in Miracles says, when it's real love, it's so strong that you cannot resist it. So on this issue of guilt, the deepest split of all happens. I'll say it again. On this idea of guilt, that's where the deepest split in your mind happens. Because if you are to retain the belief that some part of you is guilty, as the ego insists, what is the ego? The ego is the part of us that has learned to see guilt as what we are, sinful as what we are. That's what I was taught when I was a child. And the Course says, if you're going to keep feeling guilty, as the part of your mind that believes in guilt insists, then you cannot be you. You cannot be you. Yeah, you are love. The Course in Miracles says, listen to me, teach only love, for that is what you are. So we want to get straight. You're not sinful. You're not guilty. You are loved. You are loved. You are loved. And you are lovable. You are loved, and lovable. So your identity is love. Your identity is not guilt. You are not sinful and guilty. So if you're going to believe that about yourself, do you know that the Course in Miracles says if you're going to believe that you're guilty or sinful, then you can't be you, because what you are is love. So there's a part of you, do you know that there's a part of you that's trying to persuade you that the guilty you is you? And the Course says, only by persuading you that the guilty you is you, could your ego possibly induce you to project your guilt. Now, here's the problem about projection. Projection is a form of giving. It's a form of giving and sharing, projecting. So do you know that if you project guilt, you keep it in your mind? Whatever you share is what you have. Whatever you give is what you receive. So when you try to project your guilt and see everyone else is guilty, you are actually keeping the guilt in your mind. Do you know if you want to let go of your guilt, then you can't be projecting your guilt onto others. So I want you to consider one thing. What is it I want you to consider? I want you to consider how strange a solution your ego's arrangement is. I want you to think about how strange an answer the part of the mind that believes in guilt, what its arrangement is. There is a part of the mind that believes in separation, guilt, and fear. That part of the mind is called the ego, easing God out. Now listen to me. So what a person does is they project their guilt, their anger, or whatever, to get rid of it. But when you project something, the Course says you're actually not really getting rid of the guilt. Do you know what you are really doing is concealing the guilt? Now, what do I mean by that? Listen to me, okay? If the guilt really is in my mind, but I'm projecting it that it's in your mind, then I'm really hiding the fact that the guilt is in my mind. That's how I hide that the anger is in my mind. That's how I hide that it's in my mind. I see it as in your mind. So that's merely me concealing the anger, guilt, and grievances that's in my mind. So when you see people judging other people, condemning other people, if you find yourself doing that, it may make you feel like you're the better person. That's what specialness is about, by the way. It's trying to make myself feel like I'm either better or lesser than someone else. Some people, they try to feel special by how much less they see themselves than others. And there are others who try to make themselves special by how much they see themselves as superior to others. And so the Course in Miracles is saying that whatever you see outside yourself is something that's going on in your mind. And by seeing it as outside your mind, instead of inside your mind, well, you're actually hiding the fact that it's inside your mind. So the Course in Miracles says that when you project something outside yourself that's inside your mind, then you are actually just hiding it. So you still experience the guilt, or you still experience the fear, or you still experience the anger, but the Course in Miracles says what happens? You have no idea why. So if you're one of those persons that you feel guilty a lot, sad a lot, depressed a lot, worried a lot, fearing a lot, but you don't know why. That's why. You are projecting what's going on in your mind into everybody else you see, and hiding the fact that whatever you're seeing, notice I say it's in your mind. Notice I didn't say what you see in somebody else is what's in you. I said what you see is in your mind. That's a different thing. So sometimes people say, what I see in you is in me. That's not true. What you see in someone else is in your mind. That's where it's located. Because remember I said that you are loved, you are loved, you are loving, you are lovable, you are innocent. What you really are is sinless and guiltless. That's the condition of what you really are. So what does that mean? When you project what's going on in your mind, the guilt or anger or lack or unworthiness, and you project it into something you see outside yourself, you're hiding the fact that what you're seeing is in your mind. Then you still experience guilt. And you will say, I feel unhappy, I feel guilty, but I just don't know why. So then, do you know that the Course says what you're going to do then is think that you're feeling guilty is coming from a weird assortment of worldly ideas, ego ideas. My dress was too short. I don't go to church every Sunday. You're going to come up with all these different reasons why you're feeling guilty that seem to have something to do with what you are doing outside in the world or something your body has done. But that's not the real reason, according to the Course, why you're feeling guilty or angry. If you're projecting it, if you're seeing it as outside yourself, if you're seeing it as in someone else, you're hiding that it's in your mind. And then you feel guilty and you don't know why. Then the world tells you it's because you've broken some morality or something in the world that you are doing that's sinful or guilty or bad. The Course calls it a weird assortment of ego ideals. I've broken a weird assortment of ego ideals. I ate meat at the wrong time, or I wore the wrong thing, or I said the wrong thing, or I'm not as successful as I should be in the world. I'm going to come up with all these external reasons as to why I feel guilty. Now listen carefully. So there's a part of your mind that'll tell you that you're feeling guilty because you have failed an assortment of ideals, things you should have done that you didn't do. That's the ego. But what are you really feeling guilty about? Well, the Course in Miracles says, yet you have no idea that you are failing the child of God. You're failing yourself by seeing yourself as guilty. So what is failing yourself? Failing yourself is seeing yourself as guilty or unworthy or lacking in some way. That's failing yourself. Do you hear me? Do you get that? Now, what is it that we're not aware of? What is it that we're not aware of? Well, the Course in Miracles says, you have no idea that you're failing yourself and failing your equal. The Course in Miracles says, one of the definitions of brother in A Course in Miracles is equal. So a brother is not talking about a male body or a female body. It's talking about an equal. I'm your equal. You are my equal. We're all equals. Do you know that the Course in Miracles says that the idea of equality, and not the idea of competition, the idea of equality is the foundation of the miracle. So miracles, which are expressions of love, miracles are correct perceptions. They come from a sense of the awareness that we are equals. So when you see yourself as guilty, you are failing yourself. You're betraying yourself. When you see someone else as guilty, you're betraying yourself because yourself is love. So the Course is not saying that we don't make mistakes and we don't have errors in our perception. As a matter of fact, it says that the only thing that can be wrong is your perception, that all the errors are really in your perception. So the one thing that actually can be an error is the way that you are seeing things. I'm taking it slow. Truth repetition. So you are failing yourself by seeing yourself as less than loving and valuable. You're failing yourself if you know yourself as less than being a treasure, a priceless treasure of God. You're failing someone else when you don't see them also as similarly blessed and innocent and loving. Does that mean we don't do dumb things? Of course not. When you are in guilt and you believe you're guilty, that's a part of you that believes you deserve to be punished, because that's the way the world does justice. It thinks that punishment is correction. So therefore, when you feel guilty, you're automatically sending out a message to the universe: punish me. I've done something bad. Punish me for that. Listen to what I'm saying that you don't have to believe that you might have resistance to. I'll say it again. The feelings of guilt tied to the part of us that's been taught if someone is guilty of something, they deserve to be punished. That's why when someone is found guilty in a court, they don't exactly start an immediate rehabilitation program trying to change their way of thinking. What they do is think of it in terms of, we're going to punish you for so many years and make you suffer for what you've done. So don't you think that there's a part of your mind that would be programmed and wired the same way if that's what you've been exposed to your entire life? So when you see yourself as guilty, the Course in Miracles says it's a request for punishment to the part of you that believes in guilt. But the Course in Miracles also says that looked at through the eyes of the Holy Spirit, through the eyes of love, when you feel guilty, it's a call for love. When you feel guilty, it's a request to recognize and to know your innocence. So to the loving mind, guilt and anger and fear that you would see in yourself, and guilt and anger and fear that you would see in someone else, is a call for God. It's a call for love. It's a call for help. It's a call for healing. But to the ego, to the part of your mind that believes in punishment, it's a request for punishment. And listen, I know that's deep, but it's also pretty simple. Let me give you an example. Because people say the Course in Miracles is just too hard for me to understand. Well, it works like this. Whenever you project, you're trying to get rid of the guilt and anger that's really inside of you, because you find it unbearable. Because when you're feeling guilt and fear and anger, it keeps you from remembering love. It keeps you from remembering your Creator. Your Creator has an attraction. Love has an attraction. And the Course in Miracles says it's an irresistible attraction. The pull of God, the pull of love is so intense that you can't resist it. And so you want to get rid of that strain of resisting love that comes from thinking that you're guilty or sinful. But your ego, the part that believes in guilt, it tells you that that guilt itself is you. It's not you. So we try to get rid of what we don't like in ourselves by seeing it in somebody else, but you're really just hiding it. Then you experience guilt and upset and you go, I don't know why. I don't know why I'm feeling guilty. And then you tell yourself it's about some morality rule or something that the world has taught you that you're doing is bad. And you assign your guilt to some external cause, and not you're feeling guilty because you're betraying yourself by seeing yourself as less than an innocent, loving treasure of God. So the guilt is really coming from self-betrayal. That's where it's really coming from. Because you know, every time you condemn yourself, put yourself down, not see you as the beautiful, unlimited being that you are, then you are betraying yourself. And you feel guilty about that. Then I feel guilty, and then I'm going to say it's somebody else's fault, and I'm going to see everybody else. I'm going to project it because I'm trying to get rid of it. The Course says. Now, you don't have any idea that that's what you're doing, according to the Course in Miracles. I'll say it again. I may be telling you things you're not aware of. Do you know what not aware means? It means I'm saying something to you that you may not see. You may not even be able to relate to. You might even say, I don't believe that at all. It has nothing to do with the truth. But the Course in Miracles is saying you are failing yourself when you see yourself as guilty. And you're failing someone else when you see them as sinful and guilty. Because you are the child of God. That's what the Course means. Son means creation. Son means mind. So believing you are no longer you. What do you mean believing I'm no longer me? Well, I'm truly only love. I'm truly spirit. But I no longer believe that now. I don't believe I'm innocent now. I don't believe I'm completely only love now. So the Course in Miracles says, believing you are no longer you, you do not realize, what did I say? You do not realize that you are failing yourself. When you put yourself down, when you don't see yourself as the beautiful, holy, innocent, magnificent, stupendous, awesome being that you are, you're failing yourself. That's just a fact according to the Course. Now, we're going to get deeper right now. We're going to take it down another level. Those of you who right now are having the best sleep you've ever had in your life, I want you to enjoy that sleep and know that you're still hearing what I'm saying, even if your ego is asleep. You know, I don't get offended by people going to sleep in my classes. You know why? Because the Course in Miracles told me that your ego, the part of you that doesn't believe you deserve the love I'm talking about, the part of you that's been taught you're unworthy in some way or guilty in some way, the Course in Miracles says that part of you has 3 words of advice when you start to hear the truth as intensely as the Course in Miracles is giving you. He says your ego tells you, first of all, go to sleep, forget it, or die. That's pretty intense. Either go to sleep, and I've seen it a million times. People can be wide awake until I start actually saying what the Course is saying, and they'll go dead out, you know. Or they'll listen to the whole class and respond to what's being said, and will be right on top of hearing it. And as soon as I say, may the Course be with you, and that's the end of the class, they forget everything I just said. If I was to walk up to them and say, what did I actually talk about? It's very rare that a person will be able in any detail to say anything I just got through saying for the last hour. You know, I've heard people tell people, I tell people to come to your class, and they say, well, what did you say? They said, and I say, well, you just have to come. They can't really even say what it is. You just need to go there. And so that's what the Course in Miracles tells me your ego is, and my ego is going to do. It's going to tell you to forget it. That's why I see myself as my role now to be the truth repetition teacher. Because it's more important to me that you hear this, even if you don't believe it, than that you analyze it. Don't forget, the first 4 letters of analyze is anal, A-N-A-L. And then the last part of it is lies. Get it? Lies. Anal, lies. So your ego will want to love it. Love, let's sit around and debate the meanings of the Course in Miracles and analyze the meanings of the Course in Miracles and call that studying the Course in Miracles. Your true self is saying, I want to hear what this is saying. I need to hear what this is saying. Even if I don't believe it at first, at least let me hear it. And so the Course in Miracles is saying the darkest of your hidden cornerstones, the thing that holds your belief in guilt from your awareness. Do you know the thing that's keeping you from being aware that you have unconscious guilt? Because I've had many people tell me, I don't feel guilty, but they got all kinds of challenges, all kinds of unhappiness, all kinds of calamities going on, and they'll say to themselves, well, I don't have any guilt at all. It's like, well, actually your physical reality is reflecting back to you that you have a lot of things that you might need to change in your mind if the outer is a reflection of the inner. The Course says we have 2 faces that we show. And one is called the face of innocence, and the other one is the face of anger. So what that means is the face of innocence is the part of us that's just nice and sweet and the nicest thing we could possibly be. But people are always messing with us. And if they didn't mess with us, if I didn't have to defend myself, I would respond only with love. I'm really this nice person, but I just shot you in self-defense. Other than that, I would have never done it. The Course calls that the face of innocence. So everybody makes up one. The one that is the really nice you, and everybody else is the problem. And do you know that the Course in Miracles says underneath that face is the one that's really PO'd. The one that feels like it hasn't gotten its just desserts, The one that feels like it hasn't been loved enough, that doesn't feel innocent, that feels angry, that feels guilty, that feels afraid. He says that's the hidden face. And it says, and what you do is you see your hidden beliefs in the world. So you'll see the so-called upset, anger, guilt, sickness, lack in the world, but you won't see it in yourself. So that's what you have to understand. Everything you see, according to A Course in Miracles, and I keep saying that, according to the Course in Miracles, everything you see represents some segment of something that's going on in your mind. Everything you see represents some segment, it says, of the ideas you have in your mind. So it's easy for me to say, I'm just the most positive person in the world, and I just love everybody, but I see a lot of hate in the world, and I see a lot of racism in the world, and I see a lot of guilt in the world, and lack in the world, but it's not inside of me. I used to be that way before I studied the Course in Miracles, but that's not the way I am now. I'm just pure as the driven snow. I'm the nicest guy you could ever meet. But the world is going to hell on a handbasket. I see all kinds of stuff out there that's wrong. The Course in Miracles says that's your hidden face. That's the part of you that you are not aware of, that's operating at an unconscious level, because it cannot be that what you see is in your mind, but you're going to pick and choose what that is. If what you see is in your mind, what you see is in your mind. All of it. All of it. I find that very hard to believe and quite startling. So the Course in Miracles says there's a deep and dark secret place in your mind. Do you know what that deep and dark secret place, do you know what the idea is that that deep, dark secret place is hiding? The realization that you have betrayed yourself. You have betrayed yourself as a child of God by seeing yourself as guilty. The Course says you are betraying yourself when you condemn yourself to death or you condemn somebody else to death. What does that mean, to condemn somebody else to death or to condemn yourself to death? It means that you see yourself as a body that can die. You see me as a body that can die. You see yourself as a body that can die. And that is condemning yourself to death. Because that is also a belief. That is also something else that you've learned, is that you're just a body that lives a certain number of years and then you die. That, according to A Course in Miracles, is another form of self-betrayal, because that's not true. You have an eternal life that continues to exist beyond your physical body being laid down. So stop condemning yourself to death by seeing yourself as guilty, because death, looked at through your fear, is another form of punishment. So that's why someone who sometimes feels like they are guilty will want to do what they call killing themselves. People who don't see themselves, people who see themselves as innocent and who love themselves, generally don't want to kill themselves. So guilt also is a request for death at some level. And then the Course in Miracles talks about you don't even suspect this murderous, insane idea lies hidden in your mind. Do you notice how many times the Course in Miracles says you are not aware, you don't realize, you don't realize, you are not aware. So when you say, well, I don't realize that and I don't see that, well, it said that. It said you don't realize it. Do you know that that's why the Course in Miracles, to me, is such a challenge to teach? First of all, you're teaching people how much they're responsible for what they're experiencing. And generally speaking, when people are unhappy about something, that's not their favorite idea, that they're the one that's creating the experience that they're having. And then the next thing the Course in Miracles does is it tells you about things that you are doing that you don't know you're doing. And so that also brings up resistance. If I want to believe I see everybody and I love everybody, and you tell me that the anger and the hate and the grievances I see in the world represent something that's going on in my own subconscious mind, then I don't want to hear that, because I think I don't have any of those thoughts anymore. And the Course in Miracles is saying, well, if you didn't have any of those thoughts anymore, you would see only love. That's all you would see. And it would say it would take the form of, this is love, or a call for it. So therefore, all the fear and the anger and the hate and the sickness and all the things that we perceive in the world right now That is a call for love. That is a call for God. That is a prayer. That is a request for healing. So I'm going to tell you something else that's going to be kind of deep to hear. I swear I could definitely teach something easier than this. Okay, because I could just teach stuff that everybody would just love everything that comes out of my mouth. But I'm not doing that with the Course in Miracles. Do you know that I had the most drama in my life when I wasn't willing to admit to my ego? When I was just trying to be so positive that I did not at any level acknowledge anything other than feeling good about everything, that's when I was going through the most sickness. That's when I would have the most drama. That's when I would have the most lack. I noticed that the drama quotient was high. So I was one of these people who were really nice, but something was always happening to. Something was always upsetting me. But when I went the other way and said, oh, okay, there's a part of my mind that does not love me, a part of my mind, a part of my thinking that sees me as guilty and sinful. So therefore, that's in my own mind. So therefore, I need to allow the Holy Spirit. I need to allow the Holy Spirit. I need to allow God's teacher to teach me how to let go of the idea of my guilt or my sin. Then I noticed that the drama in my outer world decreased tremendously because there was no more any need for it to be in my face so that I could recognize there's something I need to take a look at within my own mind. Do you hear what I'm saying? So my willingness to admit, so I never pretend I don't feel what I feel with myself. If I don't like something, I say I don't like it. If I'm upset about, if I don't like somebody, I'll tell myself that's the feeling that I have. Why? Because then I don't need all these people that I don't like showing up in my face to show me I have the belief in people that I don't like. So if I just go ahead and admit to the mistake in my perception, there's no reason for the universe to put it in my face so that I can know I got to work on it. So what happened when I started to be honest about my ego, my guilt, my anger, my upset, was my world, my outer world, became ridiculously more peaceful and much more harmonious, and it was flowing. And then you come to the realization that the guilt or the anger or the upset is in your own mind, and either you can make yourself feel guilty and angry about that, or you realize at that point it's not God that's making you feel upset and angry. It's nobody else that's making you feel upset and angry. So therefore you can turn to God because God isn't the one that's causing your pain and punishment. And you can turn to your equals, your brothers and sisters, because you also realize they're not the ones that are at fault for the way that you're feeling. Did you hear what I just said? If you think your brothers and sisters are the cause of your pain, you're not going to want to turn to them. And if you think that God is punishing you, you're not going to want to turn to God. But if you realize it's all a mistake that you're making from your own projection, now all of a sudden you do have brothers and sisters you can turn to, and you do have a God you can turn to because you don't feel like you're being punished anymore. These are things you should think about. You don't have to necessarily believe them. Also, remember our agreement, which is that you will listen to this at least 4 times, because 4 is the number of foundation and building. So you want these new ideas. That's why I'm not rushing through this, because you could take one of the ideas that you've already heard out of what I've said today, and you could work that idea, and you see miracles of peace happen in your life. So I'm not trying to rush through this so I can give you more to forget. I'm not trying to give you a ton of information so you have more to forget. So we're going to move fast. A Course in Miracles says many times in the book, read me slowly. Slowly. Read me slowly. So listen to what I'm saying as I begin to wind this toward the completion for today. The Course in Miracles says you don't even suspect that you have this murderous idea of condemning yourself to pain because there's a part of you that thinks you're guilty and sinful. And if you would be honest, you know that this world has a society and a culture that's very much built on the idea that guilt is real. And then the Course in Miracles says you're condemning yourself, but you don't even suspect you're doing this. It says it right here. You do not even suspect this murderous, I love this, but really insane idea lies hidden in your mind. Do you know why after 40 years I still teach out of the book and you never see me without my book? because I want you to know that all the answers that you're looking for, they're in the book, that ultimately you don't need me, even though I'm glad to support you the way that I do. If you see that I'm reading this book and you're understanding what I'm saying, it can help motivate you to actually do the study of A Course in Miracles, rather than just thinking you're going to always get it secondhand through somebody else. Because just listening to me or watching a video, those things can help support your awakening. But they do not, I want to emphasize, listen to videos and listening to speakers and coming to classes, that does not take the place of your own personal, proactive study and connection with the divine. So I'm going to say that over and over for you people out there that you know you don't ever want to really take the time to study it. You know, you'll see the power of it, because it takes more concentration to read than it does to listen. So just the mere fact that you're attempting to read it is going to force you to focus your attention more on what's being said. And do you know that the Course in Miracles teaches that all Spirit wants you to do is to decide on the direction you want to go in, which is the direction of truth and love. And then the Course in Miracles says everything else will be given to you. So you decide to go in the direction of love and truth, and everything else is going to be given you. Oh, that feels so good. Now listen. You don't even suspect this murderous and insane idea that you deserve to be punished, that you're guilty, lies in your mind. Do you know that there is a part of the mind that has such a strong destructive urge, and there's a part of the mind, depending on what you were programmed with about your worthiness, there's a part of the mind that has a destructive urge. Do you know that that destructive urge is so intense that nothing short of the crucifixion of yourself, the crucifixion of the child of God, can ultimately satisfy it? There are some people that are being taught by their own guilt that they don't deserve to live, and that nothing less than your own death is going to be satisfied in that part of you. And that's the underlying idea behind suicide, self-sabotage, why people hurt themselves, why they ruin things that seem to be beautiful, and you've all had that experience. The part of me that thinks I don't deserve that relationship, if I let that part of me rule, I'm going to do something to sabotage that relationship. If the part of me that may not think I deserve to be abundant and prosperous is going to make sure I make all kinds of choices and decisions that give me lack. So there's another part of the mind that's been taught that I'm separate from love, I'm separate from God, that I'm not enough, and that I'm guilty. That part of my mind creates all of the chaos and pain and suffering that I go through. There's another part of my mind that knows I'm the divine, innocent, lovable, loving, beautiful child of God. And that's the part that now we're learning how to listen to and tune into. But you can't teach yourself how to do that. The Course in Miracles says you need to resign as your own teacher, which is what you would do if you honestly assess the results of you trying to teach yourself all your life. So the Course says, resign now as your own teacher at the level of your ego. Even though it's still you that's the ultimate teacher. Your greater self is the ultimate teacher. Woo! Listen. There's a part of you that doesn't know you're the innocent child of God. There's a part of you that doesn't know you're loved. There's a part of you that doesn't know that you are innocent. Say that to yourself. I am innocent. You don't have to believe it for it to be true. Did you hear me? You don't have to believe something for it to be true. There are truths that are beyond our beliefs. There are some things that are just the truth, whether you believe it or not, which is good news. That's really the best news I could have told you today, actually, is that what loves you whether you believe it or not. That your Creator loves you whether you believe you deserve love or not. That's good news, that there are some things you can't change through your belief. So what do your beliefs do? Well, your beliefs determine what you see, so that means if you don't believe it, then you don't see it. But it doesn't mean that it is not true. Because you don't believe it, you don't see it, but it doesn't mean that it's not true. And you are loved. You are loved. So there's a part of you, the Court says, there's a part of you that's the Stevie Wonder of the spiritual world. There's a part of you, the Court says, is blind. Oh my God, what does that mean? There's a part of you that has your hands over your eyes, that's missing all of the incredible beauty that's all around you because your eyes are closed. You have your hands over your eyes. So what you are looking at are the things that you are imagining in the darkness that you have created by hiding the truth about yourself. And while my hands are over my eyes and I'm just seeing things in my mind, I can project any kind of images that I want to see. I could project images of my pain, my suffering. I could project images of how loved I am. But the truth is, I have my hands over my eyes, but that doesn't mean that my eyes have lost the ability to see. It just means my eyes are closed. And so what does the Holy Spirit, what does the Course in Miracles do? What does the Course in Miracles do? Well, it describes to you what's outside of your hands being over your eyes. And then it tells you that you need to start projecting some loving images in your mind while you still have your hands over your eyes. Because when you finally let the Holy Spirit, the love in you, take your hands down and you open your eyes, which you're going to call awakening, you'll be prepared for all the beauty and all the wonder that you will see, that you didn't see while you had your hands over your eyes being blind. And do you know that when you see yourself as sinful, when you see yourself as guilty, that's the same as putting your hands over your eyes and just seeing an image of yourself that you create in your own imagination. But there is a reality. What is real is beyond your perception. The love that you're looking for is beyond your interpretations, but it's there. But it's there. So don't let that part of you that doesn't want you to see innocence in yourself and others. The Course says that when you do that, with the part of you that doesn't want to believe in your innocence, when you dare to call yourself guiltless, when you dare to call yourself loving and lovable, that's the part of the mind that will try to destroy that idea about how beautiful you are, because there's a part of your mind that is afraid of love, that's afraid of love, that's afraid of love, that's afraid of love. There's a part of the mind that's afraid of love. You know that because sometimes when people tell you that they love you, instead of you feeling a lot of peace, you go into fear. Because we have learned to think of love as sacrifice. A lot of times giving up what you really want for somebody or something else. So, innocent child of God, no longer betray yourself by seeing yourself as sinful or guilty. Let yourself hear that. I'm going to do a quick little short repetition recap. I'm Earl Purdy. This is my full-time gig. This is what I do in the world. This is my calling. If you'd like to make a donation or a financial expression of appreciation, please go to my website, www.earlpurdy.com. If you want to use Venmo or any of the other programs, my email address is earlpurdy@earlpurdy.com. I'm about to open it up again on Sundays so that we can come back to Unity Temple here in Denver and join with in the proper way, with the proper social distancing and everything else that's deemed as necessary at the level of the world. And it's going to be the second Sunday in July of 2020. because I don't know when you might be listening to this. But we're talking about the second Sunday. I don't know exactly what the date is, but it's the second Sunday in July. It's what?
12.
Okay, so July 12th, I'm going to start back to doing my lab class here in front of any audience that decides to show up. And that's July 12th, 2020, 1 p.m. Mountain Time, and I'll still be broadcasting on Facebook Live. So, follow your heart. What feels peaceful for you, go with that first, okay? Wow, and if you want a one-on-one session with me as a counselor, as a mentor, as a spiritual advisor, to teach you how you can apply what we are saying in a practical way in your everyday life, to get the removal of any blocks, and you're tired of those blocks, then have a clarity session with me, a clarity session. And if you're open to it, I use my over 40 years experience as a soul purpose astrologer and numerologist to give you additional insight. But the key is if you are open to it. But if not, we still can counsel with each other. Go to my website, www.earlpurdy.com. Go to the clarity session page. It will give you all the details you need, and you can self-book a session right there online from within my website. And there are hundreds of classes on my website, video and audio that you can watch. Wow. On Sundays at 7 o'clock p.m., on Sundays at 1 o'clock p.m. Mountain Time, right here, we have the Course in Miracles. And on Thursday nights, I have what I call hardcore Course in Miracles at 7 p.m. for Course in Miracles students. Anybody's welcome to watch, but Thursdays are especially geared toward people who are Course in Miracles students who are studying a Course in Miracles, who want to take advantage of my 40 years of working with this material. Share the video and sign up for my contact list. And follow my Earl Purdy page so that whenever I come on with the live broadcast, you will be immediately notified. All right, here we go. There's a part of you that is betraying you if you believe that you are guilty or sinful. I didn't say you didn't make mistakes. I didn't say that we didn't make what we call mistakes. I'll put it that way. But those mistakes are for loving correction by a divine mind that knows your sinlessness and your innocence. Don't forget that. Yes. Now remember, if you project guilt, if you project anger, if you project fear into anybody else, what you're doing is hiding that those thoughts are in your mind. And then when you're hiding that those guilty, angry thoughts are in your mind by saying everybody else is that way, the Course in Miracles says you still experience the guilt, you still experience the fear, but you don't know why. And then you say it's because of something you did in the world that made you feel guilty. You smoked and you said you weren't going to smoke. You said you were going to exercise every day and you didn't, so you feel guilty. But that's not the real reason, according to the Course. You're feeling guilty because you know you're betraying yourself by putting yourself down, not seeing yourself as the incredible, beautiful being that you are. That is self-betrayal. And the Course in Miracles says, if you are going to see yourself if you're going to see yourself as something that is guilty or fearful or lacking, then you are failing yourself. You're not being yourself. When you are angry, worried, concerned, judging, condemning yourself or others, you're not being yourself. You're not being yourself. When you put yourself down, you're not being yourself. When you hate yourself, when you condemn yourself, you're not being yourself. So you might say, oh my God, today I wasn't myself all day long. I was talking about myself and others and upset with everybody all day. I was not really being myself, because myself is loving, myself is compassionate, myself is kind. Do you hear me, Holy Spirits? But don't forget that you may not even realize these beliefs are in your mind. How you know that these beliefs are in your mind is you see it in your world. Be determined to see things differently. Be determined to see things differently. I am determined to see things differently. I am determined to see things differently. You are determined to see things differently. So say to yourself, one more time, I am innocent, innocent, innocent. I am innocent, innocent, innocent. I am innocent. He says slowly, I am innocent. That's the truth about you. Mighty companions, wow, I needed to hear this today. Very much so. I bless you. It's an honor to talk to you, you and me. So I'm going to end this the way I usually do. May the course be with you. May the course be with you.